maybe you can see yourself in these shoes here, see what happened. Okay, so it's the English opening, and I'm very versed in this. Now, just show you a couple of ideas here. This is the symmetrical version. There are many more variations. Okay, so very interesting position. One line is to take, and then d6, and then white comes back. We just want to be out of the line of fire. Now there's two strategies, good strategies for black here. Well, there's probably more than that, but e4 or bishop f5 provokes the e4, closing down the diagonal, and then they fight it out. The other strategy is black plays, he's going to play a6, rook b8, knight d7, knight c5, bishop d7, and b5. Now, back in the 80s, I had a number of games from this position, and my opponents kept setting up a battery, queen and bishop, to come down and trade my bishop, and I slaughtered every one of them. So, you know, if you're going to play this line, you know, I would actually recommend the bishop f5 line. It's a little easier. This takes a lot of patience because while black's doing all those moves, white's developing. Okay, say bishop here, rook b8. Now we got to watch out for c5. This comes in some lines. So let's do this first. Now put this here, chase the queen. Okay, park her back here. Now we get this in. Let's put this over here. See, I'm playing black's plan, but while black is doing all these things, white's doing things too. Maybe white will go here, and then bang, we got b5, and it's a fight. Okay, so there's many other lines, but one of the more interesting ones, let me show you this. Let's castle both sides, get that done with. Now here, black can sacrifice a pawn, but he actually gets a really, really nice initiative here. There's nothing better for white than to come back here, and you know, after I think queen a5, black has a lot of play on the queen side. So let's go back to the game. Okay, so this e3 is done with the idea of playing d4, but he plays d3 instead. So white's kind of playing it slow, black is too. And now it looks like the idea is to play this. And it looks like both sides are trying for that. But when black does it, he ends up pitching a pawn. And look at their time on the clocks. So, you know, both sides have more time than when they started. So, you know, this is not a book position. I mean, I'd almost swear to it. You know, they're on uncharted territory. So this is the time to think about, stop and think. And notice, you know, this knight on c3 is not protected. Black doesn't really have a way to take advantage of it. We got to keep that in mind. So white stole a pawn. And, you know, black's still getting time on the clock. White hasn't spent that much time. So now, you know, like I say, white's a clear pawn ahead. So what's the strategy? Well, the strategy is that outside pass pawn is going to win us the game. That's the long-term strategy. So, for instance, if white could magically make all these major or minor pieces and queens vanish, white would win the rook and pawn ending. Okay, or if you get into a knight ending or a bishop ending, he'd win that too. But getting there is not that easy, as we're going to see. And and black also has a weak c pawn. So what should white be doing here? Let's back this up, get rid of the circles. So what should white be doing here? Well, the action appears to be on the queen side. The d3 pawn is kind of weak. So maybe what white should try to do is get rid of it. Okay. You know, a lot of times when we have a backward pawn, we want to advance it. Now, I'm not saying this is the best move. We're going to analyze it. We're going to, you know, when we're sitting there playing a game, we say, well, gee, that's a bad pawn. I know if he takes and I take, I've gotten rid of it, and I still have my my pawn over here safe and sound that I plan to win the game with. But, chess isn't that easy. We notice that one of the protectors is this guy. So what happens if black decides to take? Now, he doesn't have to. We're just asking. Well, white could take with the queen. Now we're on this knight. Okay? So black doesn't have time to take this pawn. He would if white took with the bishop. Now maybe black will go into an ending. The logic being, even though he doesn't have the two bishops, the logic being he's given white a weakness. Now, looks like white's fine here, but and he has the two bishops. But these are things we have to think about. We have to see this possibility and play it out in our head over the board and decide that white is okay here. Okay, so let's see what white does. Well, this is a logical move too. It attacks the pawn, gets off, unpins this thing defensively, assuming black was going to play rook d8 and attack that. Let's see what happens. Okay, now he does take. So this is great for white. We got the two bishops. We're attacking a pawn. We've got an outside pass pawn. Everything is fine. And black is moving quick, but so is white. So this is the time to slow down and take your time. So look what's happened here. There's a trick. We're on this, and we're on this. So white's lost a piece. So apparently his queen c2 wasn't that good. But he has a way to get it back, and that's what's kind of amazing. Discovered attack, and we're going to pick off that knight.
Check.
And here comes that. And he takes it. And we have something similar to what we looked at a little earlier, where white got the two bishops. Black got an isolated pawn out of it, was able to, but the queen stayed on. And that's a big difference. So we had something very similar to this, if not exactly like this, with these off. So this is winning for white. Okay, he survived the loss of the piece. He got it back. This is a winning position for white. And, at move 22, you should have about 22 minutes left. So white's managed to get this far because I think of how black has treated this. Black has received, 20 moves. He's received about 1,000 seconds in increment time, which is just over 15 minutes. So black has, and since he's gone up 5 minutes on his clock, black has spent 10 minutes on 21 moves. That's about 30 seconds a move. You have nearly 2 minutes a move average. If black keeps this up, the door is wide open for white. Now, if I'm white, I'm 1489. I'm playing somebody almost 200 points above me. And, think of whatever your rating is and add 200 points to that. You don't beat those guys that often. That's why they're 200 points ahead of you, no matter who you are. It's all relative. The 2600 doesn't beat the 2800 that often. 2800, that's your Magnus and Carlsen and Fabiano Caruana, Kara Nakamura, Wesley So, Sergei Karyakin. Who else is left up there? MVL. Anyway, so it's time for white to hunker down and play chess here. Okay, so one thing I've said is that you want to get to move 40 with your increment. That's 18 moves from now. So white, it's now time for white to set up a plan and to take his time to do it. We've gotten lucky so far. So if we could go back in a time machine with white and replay this, we'll see 18. I got to make 18 moves. I'm going to get about 800 more seconds on the clock. That's about 14 minutes. I'm going to have 51 minutes to make 18 moves. That's almost 3 minutes a move. That's plenty of time. So it's time to find a plan for white of how you want to win this game. Well, we already talked about it. Here's your key. Okay. So what we want to do is we want this rook behind that pawn. Okay. So we need to put this bishop somewhere. Now, notice that this bishop controls this square. Let's put this bishop on f4. Why am I picking f4? Because I'm also taking this square away. These are wonderful bishops. Okay, I think white played bishop e3. Let's verify that. Yeah, he played there. But this is a tall pawn. The bishop isn't helping much. We've got the two bishops. Let's use them. Now, one thing I'll sit and say in these things when it's my part of my routine, what's black going to do? And the answer is we don't know, but we're going to be ready to meet whatever he does. If you're afraid of him chasing the bishop, well, let's just go chase the rook. Okay? He doesn't have time to steal this pawn, right? He comes over here. Now let's see. I gotta make sure I don't butcher this. Okay, now he could take this. Maybe I'm doing this a little differently. Maybe I don't think I considered this line the first time I looked at this. Let's see, this might not be the best choice. Let's just go here and be done with it. Okay, now if he takes, we still have this this idea of putting the rook behind the pawn and running it. Okay, and I don't think black can get adequate play on this pawn, and this knight's a little bit out of play, and white might even be threatening to just take it off the board and generate some checkmating threats. So black needs to take some action over here. But as I said, how's he going to get his rook into the game? It can't go here, can't go here, can't even go here. I mean, he can bring the knight this way, but I'm still going to do this. And if you go here, I'm gonna batten down the hatches here. And black doesn't have an answer to this pawn ready to start running up the board. He has blocked off the diagonal, but we're going to have the rook behind the pawn. So this is the way to start. This is playable. Let's see what happens. Now he attacks the pawn and the rook. So quite properly, he goes over here. Black is still moving kind of quickly, but so is white. I haven't seen a slowdown on white's part yet. So here, this starts the long series of white not forcing the issue. Like I've talked about it in several games, we know that if we reach a king and pawn ending, white wins. But reaching a king and pawn ending is not easy because black knows he'll lose the king and pawn ending. That's the main reason it's not easy. So white is going to be offering a whole bunch of queen trades over the next several moves, and instead of trying to use his pieces to force this pawn down the board. So here comes the first attempt. He's hoping that black will give him two nice passed pawns. That's what he's hoping. That's what I call hope chess. I hope my opponent plays what I want him to play. Now let's see. We could evict the queen, maybe. See what he does. He looks for another queen trade. Now the queen's getting a little more dangerous. And he chases it out, but in doing so, he's taken his rook from behind the pawn. He guards his bishop. Watch your queen. Attack the rook. And now logically he should push his pawn, right? And he does. So it certainly looks winning for white, but there was a little problem with advancing that pawn. Here comes knight d5. Now black is no longer, or white's no longer going to have the bishop pair.
Check.
And here he elected to take with the pawn, so his d4 pawn isn't weak. But the problem that this gives is it weakens white's king position, and that's going to play a pivotal part down the line. I mean, white is still theoretically winning, but black is in the hunt. He's created some targets. E3, white may have to defend that at some point. Now, both sides I have a bishop of opposite colors, right? Okay, so the way the pawn structure sits now, neither bishop is effective in attacking. So, one rule is with opposite color bishops, the attacking side is a piece ahead. Okay, well, right now neither side's attacking and can attack, but we'll see if that changes here. Depends on if either side is moving their pawns or not. You put them on opposite colors, and suddenly the enemy bishop could become deadly. So here he puts pressure on here. White chases the queen. Now it's time to run that pawn, right? There he goes. So it looks very, very promising for white. Now white is starting to take his time a little bit. See, all of a sudden we see him down at 20 minutes. So here he took about 4 minutes on that move, and he took about 4 or 5 minutes on that move, and black is starting to take a little bit more time. Let's see. He played that rather quickly. Now white controls the B file. He controls B8. He controls A8. This pawn is ready to run. Looks good for white. But now we get some double-edged stuff going. Now, probably the best move for white here was to push D5. Okay, the reason is we don't want this E file to open. Remember, we have a weakness here. And this also gives us another passed pawn. It does limit this bishop a little bit, but hey, that's okay. Because opening this file is gonna prove to cause white a lot of headaches. He took, but maybe he's doing this because, hey, I'm trading more pieces. So from that point of view, it makes sense. But suddenly, this bishop now has a target, and white has to guard his A pawn. Black, for what it's worth, black is also closer to a draw. So he chooses to advance his A pawn to protect it. But here comes the black pieces. Now, probably, white could say, would you like a draw? And black will shake his hand, okay? We can say that will probably happen, right? Will it? That's another story. But like I said, we have problems here. We gotta play a little defense. And now, suddenly, we have a threat of a check. The queen's getting active. Notice this pawn is now blocked. Notice that white can't check on the back rank and advance it. But white could put his queen down on B7 to help advance it, but that takes the queen away from helping out back here. So he offers another queen trade. He's hoping he will take it. But he's not going to take it. Instead, he's going to... And he's not going to take the pawn so that he loses his bishop. He's just going to increase the pressure on E3. So white goes here knowing that he can't take this pawn, but now this pawn is kind of stuck. He can't advance it. And he counterattacks the queen.
Check.
He throws a check. And I think this is where he played bishop B7 to hold on to his pawn. Yeah. So... white's managed to get that pawn down there, but with the open position now, black is very close to holding his own.
Check.
If he isn't already. And, the white's queen and bishop are way off in Never Land. And, the white king is under duress. And white's taking his time trying to find it.
Check. Check.
And his back rank is just weak. Now black can't steal this pawn. This check will get the bishop.
Check.
So maybe this is a time when you just have to say, I probably had a win. I'll just take the draw by repetition. But maybe black didn't want the repetition. And you see, offering another queen trade. I said that's all he was doing. And black is just declining them. And then more pressure. We're threatening on E3. Would you like a queen trade? No, thank you. I can't afford to trade queens. Comes back over here. And suddenly, since white is stopped from his plan, partly thanks to the rook trade. To have a rook behind that pawn to help it run through. Black is going to try to soften up the white king a little more. Would you like a queen trade? No, thank you. Now we got to be very careful. This check, he may be able to check that king and make the queen have to give herself up to stop the checks.
Check.
Would you like a queen trade? No, thank you. I don't want to lose my pawn. Hello, king. And this, I think, was the losing move. Well, maybe not yet. Maybe it might have been this move. But all of a sudden, there's trouble here.
Check.
And it goes this way, and it's just all over.
Check.
Suddenly this king is being drawn into a bad location. See, he can't run back this way. And now comes a queen check.
Check.
And he can't block this way. He has to go there.
Check.
And now comes this check, and white must give up his queen. He's using his time. Black's finally taking his time. He's finding the resources. But
check.
We just lost the queen for nothing.
Check.
And that was the way it was going to be. And it's just a matter of time to negotiate a checkmate. There's nothing white can do.
Checkmate.
So it was white's game to win, and he looked for trades, figuring he'd win the ending. Unfortunately, he didn't get his trades. So it was the position. Like I say, when you're up a pawn, it's kind of hard to play for mate, because your extra pawn isn't part of the force that's attacking the king. Okay, it's your extra piece, or your rook over the minor piece or something that's attacking the king. So it wasn't a position white could attack. But his plan, like I said, was to get the rook behind the pawn and shove it. He did have the rook behind the pawn. He did shove it, but then the rook came out from behind the pawn. And the pawn got only shoved 3 times. It went to a4, it went to a5, and it went to a6, and then it stopped. So, white should have won this game. At the very worst, he should have just said, I messed up, I'll give you the draw. But anyway, that was that. Now, what I've done is I have gone through all the games in round 6. There were 3 that I couldn't get because I only take them when they're in somebody's history or library, because I want those timestamps. I comment about that all the time. I'm not going to have a game that I can't do a timestamp on. And this was a policy I had when I was doing videos back about 4, 5, 6 years ago. So what I've done is I started downloading games from they're in the playoff now, and there have been, let's see, you can see them here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's been 10 of them. And if you go to, here, this is a good time. Yeah, queen trade could still be a draw. Yeah, when it got to bishop opposite colors, but white would have all the winning chances. Okay, let me post some links here. 1 second. Then I'm going to bring up a game, show you the final position, and take a break. Okay, so here's the links. Here's my website. Easy to remember, chesscoachbill.com. How can you forget that, huh? And the Twitch, I got that. Well, this is the stuff when I post a YouTube video, I put these on my YouTubes. So then I've got join at chess.com, my club, Coach Bill's free video lessons. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos up on YouTube. I was looking at the stats. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I got 375,000 views on my videos. So closing in on 500,000. And then I've got my YouTube channel. This will bring up the playlists. All these that are done for Team 45 League are going to the Team 45 League playlist. There's probably about 50 when they get these uploaded. They're all uploaded up until whatever I did last night. Those are all uploaded. Then I just have to finish these. Let me make sure I stop the recording. I think I did. I'll stop it here.